the dry, cracked earth of the rifle range baked under a relentless sun. The only sounds were the whisper of a hot wind and the distant pop of gunfire from other lanes. Then, a single, sharp crack echoed from Lane 4. A beat of silence followed, broken by a voice as gritty and dry as the landscape itself. You hesitated. Sergeant Eva Rostova lowered her spotting scope. Her eyes, the color of granite, were fixed on the young soldier lying prone beside her. Hesitation is a death sentence, Private. Not just for you. For your team. Private Maya Cruz blinked, sweat stinging her eyes. The target, a silhouette 800 meters downrange, stood untouched. She had felt at the moment she pulled the trigger, a tiny, fatal flutter of doubt. How did the sergeant see it from 20 feet away? Explain, Eva commanded, her voice flat. She didn't yell. The quiet precision of her words carried more weight than any drill instructor's scream. The wind, Maya began, her voice tighter than she wanted. It gusted just as I was taking the shot. I recalculated. But you recalculated with your brain, not your instinct, Eva interrupted, standing up. Her movements were economical, devoid of wasted energy. You thought. Out here, thinking gets you killed. You need to know. The range officer, a master sergeant with a booming voice, marched over. Problem, Rostova? Another miss for Cruz. That's 3 this week. Raw talent is useless if you can't perform under pressure. He glanced at Maya with a look of dismissal. Maybe she's just not cut out for the advanced program. Eva didn't look at him. Her gaze remained locked on Maya, who was now gathering her rifle, her cheeks burning with a mixture of shame and frustration. Eva had seen it, though. A flicker in the young soldier's eyes just before the gust of wind. It wasn't fear. It was calculation. A rapid, almost subconscious assessment that most snipers took years to develop. Maya had done it in a split second, and her correction had been technically perfect, just a moment too late. Later, in the sterile, air-conditioned office of the battalion commander, Eva stood at ease. Maps and unit citations covered the walls. The word from on high, Sergeant Rostova, the colonel said, steepling his fingers. We're standing up a new quick reaction team. They need a dedicated sniper element. I need you to evaluate the new recruits and select one for intensive training. Your last assignment before that retirement paperwork goes through. Eva's expression didn't change. The Reaper was being put out to pasture. Everyone knew it. I've already made a selection, sir, Eva replied, her voice devoid of emotion. The colonel raised an eyebrow, glancing at a file on his desk. Let me guess. Peterson? Top of his class. Steady as rock. No, sir, Eva said. Private Maya Cruz. The colonel leaned back, a look of pure disbelief on his face. Cruz? The one who can't pass a basic proficiency test. Rostova, this is a critical posting. I need a shooter, not a project. Eva met his gaze squarely. You asked me to select a sniper, Colonel, not a range-quality shooter. Peterson will hit every target you point him at. Cruz. She paused, choosing her words with care. Cruz sees the variables others don't. She just doesn't trust it yet. My job is to make her trust it. And if you're wrong, if she freezes on a live op, then the failure is mine, Eva said, her tone final. But I'm not wrong. She turned and left the office, the door clicking shut behind her. Outside, she watched through a window as the recruits marched back to the barracks. Maya Cruz walked slightly apart from the others, her head not down in defeat, but up, her eyes scanning the horizon as if measuring the wind itself. Eva allowed herself a thin, razor-sharp smile. There was a legend in the making, buried under doubt and inexperience. And Eva Rostova was just the one to dig it out. The door to Sergeant Rostova's office was unmarked, a slab of painted steel identical to a dozen others in the corridor. Maya Cruz stood before it, her knuckles poised to knock. The memory of her failed shot was a fresh bruise. She took a sharp breath and rapped twice. Enter. The office was a monument to function. No personal photos, no decorations. Just a metal desk, a locked gun cabinet, and a single chair. Eva Rostova sat behind the desk, cleaning a rifle bolt with a methodical, almost surgical precision. She did not look up. "You are here because you have a gift you are trying to strangle with doubt," Eva stated, her voice echoing faintly in the bare room. She finally lifted her gaze, and it felt like being scanned by a targeting laser. "We start today. The training will be harder than anything you can imagine. If you quit, you confirm what everyone thinks of you. If you stay, you will hate me. Understood?" Maya swallowed. "Yes, Sergeant." "Good. First lesson." Eva placed the pristine rifle bolt on the desk with a definitive click. She picked up a single, heavy cartridge from a box. "This is not a tool. It is a responsibility. It is a promise you make to every person on your team. A promise that you will not fail. Why did you miss the shot?" Maya's mind raced. "The wind gust, Sergeant." Wrong." Eva cut her off, her voice flat. "You missed because you listened to the fear. You heard the wind and you thought, what if I'm wrong? The shot is mathematics. The trigger pull is faith. You lacked faith. The training that followed was a form of controlled torment. It was not about firing thousands of rounds. It was about firing one round perfectly, after hours of waiting. Eva took her to a windswept bluff overlooking the ocean. The target was a small, swinging metal plate 500 meters away. "The wind is your enemy and your teacher," Eva said, her spotting scope fixed on the target. "It does not lie. It only changes. Tell me the value." Mama lay prone, her body already aching from holding the position. She watched the mirage shimmer through her scope, the heat waves distorting the air. 7 miles per hour, left to right. "Now," Eva commanded. "It's shifting, it's variable. The wind is never variable. You are not reading it deeply enough. Look at the grass. Look at the dust at the base of the target stand. What is it telling you?" Maya's eye strained. She saw it then, a tiny spiral of dust kicking up. "It's a crosswind now. A light swirl from the right. 2 miles per hour. "Finally," Eva said, a note of satisfaction in her voice that felt like a greater reward than any praise. "Now breathe. In and out. Slow your heart. The world is only you, the rifle, and the wind. Everything else is noise." Maya exhaled, her finger resting lightly on the trigger guard. The swinging target seemed to slow its arc. The roar of the ocean faded. For the first time, there was only the gentle pressure of her finger and the perfect alignment of the crosshairs. The rifle shot was a surprise, a sharp crack that was absorbed by the vastness of the landscape. The distant metal plate rang with a satisfying ping. She heard a soft grunt from beside her. Eva lowered her spotting scope. Acceptable. It was the highest praise Maya had ever received. In that moment she understood. This was not just about learning to shoot. It was about learning to see. And Sergeant Eva Rostova was teaching her to see the world in a way she never knew was possible. The impossible shot was starting to feel just a little bit closer. A shrieking alarm shattered the pre-dawn calm of the barracks. Red emergency lights strobed through the hallway, casting frantic shadows. Maya was out of her bunk in an instant, muscle memory taking over. She joined the stream of soldiers rushing into the briefing room, her heart hammering against her ribs. Sergeant Rostova was already there, standing rigidly at the back, her face an unreadable mask. The large screen at the front of the room glowed to life, revealing a grainy photograph of a man with a sharp, cruel face. The caption beneath it was stark. Target, Kareem Al-Sahel. Status, confirmed. The briefing officer, a colonel with a grave expression, tapped the screen. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kareem Al-Sahel. He is not a field commander. He is a banker for terror. His money buys weapons, pays for attacks, and fuels instability across the region. As of 6 hours ago, we have confirmed his location." A satellite image replaced the photo, showing a complex of buildings nestled in a rugged, mountainous area. This compound is his current base of operations. The colonel zoomed in on the main building. Intelligence indicates Al-Cell is in the final planning stages of a significant chemical attack on a densely populated civilian center. We have a very narrow window to stop him. A 72-hour window. A murmur went through the room. The colonel let it settle before continuing. A direct assault is impossible. The terrain is a fortress, and his security is extensive. Any large-scale approach would be detected long before we reach the compound. He paused, his eyes scanning the faces in the room. This mission will be executed by a small, specialized team. Infiltration by air. A surgical strike. His gaze landed squarely on Eva and Maya. The success of this operation hinges on one element: the sniper team. You will be inserted at a high-altitude observation point here. A dot appeared on the ridge overlooking the compound. You will have one shot, one opportunity to neutralize the target as he moves between buildings. The screen changed again, displaying a complex diagram of ballistic data. The distance to the target was highlighted in red. The shot is extreme, approximately 1,900 meters. The analysts are calling it, for all intents and purposes, an impossible shot. Significant crosswinds, high altitude density, and a time-sensitive target vector. The room was utterly silent. The weight of those numbers pressed down on everyone. 1,900 meters. Maya felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach. She glanced at Eva. The sergeant's expression hadn't changed, but her jaw was set like stone. She gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. The future of countless innocent lives rests on this mission, the colonel concluded, his voice low and serious. The team departs in 12 hours. Dismissed. As the others filed out, talking in hushed, anxious tones, Maya remained seated. The satellite image of the compound was burned into her mind. The distance seemed vast, an unbridgeable chasm. She felt a familiar doubt begin to creep in, a voice whispering that she wasn't ready, that the shot was too far. Eva walked over and stood beside her chair. She didn't offer empty reassurance. She simply looked at the screen for a long moment. "They are wrong about one thing, Private," Eva said, her voice barely a whisper. Maya looked up, her eyes wide. "Sergeant." Eva turned to leave, but paused at the door. "There is no such thing as an impossible shot. There are only shots you are not prepared to make. And we have 12 hours to get you prepared." The night was absolute. Inside the deafening roar of the helicopter, there was only darkness and the vibration of the machine tearing through the thin, cold air. Maya felt the descent before she saw it, her stomach lurching as the pilot flared the aircraft for a moment over a jagged patch of rock. A voice crackled in her headset. "Go, go, go." She followed Eva into the void, the ground rushing up to meet them. The helicopter vanished as quickly as it had appeared, its sound swallowed by the immense silence of the mountains. For a long minute, they lay perfectly still, their ghillie suits making them part of the stony landscape, listening for any sign they had been detected. There was only the wind, a constant, whispering presence that seemed to come from every direction at once. Eva moved first, a ghost in the moonlight. They humped their gear up a steep, treacherous slope to a narrow ledge that overlooked the valley. Below, pinpricks of light marked the terrorist compound. It looked impossibly small, impossibly far away. Setting up the hide site was a silent, ritualistic process. Every movement was precise, every piece of equipment placed with deliberate care. Finally, Maya lay prone behind the massive rifle, its cold weight a familiar comfort. Eva settled beside her, pressing her eye to the powerful spotting scope. "Welcome to the real range," Eva murmured, her voice barely audible over the wind. "Forget the targets. Now we watch the world." For hours, they did nothing but observe. Eva pointed out invisible currents. "See the dust devil near the western wall? That's a thermal rising. It will create a mirage, make the target appear to swim. The flag on the main building. See how it twitches? That's a microgust, unpredictable. You must feel it before you see it. Maya's world shrank to the view through her scope and the sound of Eva's voice. The cold seeped through her clothes, and her muscles began to ache from stillness. It was a different kind of exhaustion, a mental and physical drain. As the first hint of dawn painted the sky, Eva spoke again, her tone softer, almost introspective. I had a mentor, an old man who fought in wars they don't even put in books anymore. He told me something I never forgot. She paused, her eyes still glued to the scope. He said, "The rifle doesn't fire the bullet. You do. But first, you must be still. So still that the earth forgets you are here. Then, and only then, can you become the shot." Maya absorbed the words. They weren't just about physics or technique. They were about a state of being. She looked through her scope again. The compound was clearer now in the gray light. The distance was still daunting, a vast expanse of shifting air and uncertainty. But for the first time since the briefing, the knot in her stomach began to loosen. She wasn't just a soldier with a rifle. She was part of the mountain, part of the wind. Eva was teaching her to listen to it, to understand its language. The impossible was starting to feel like a problem that could be solved, one breath at a time. The wait continued. The silence, a heavy blanket, broken only by the mountain's whisper. The sun climbed higher, baking the rock ledge. The compound below stirred to life like an anthill. Maya's body was a symphony of discomfort, a cramp in her leg, a persistent itch on her nose. But her focus was absolute. Eva's voice was a calm, steady rhythm in her ear, a constant stream of data. Wind holding steady from the west-northwest. 5.5 meters per second. Mirage is getting heavy. Stay sharp. Then everything changed. A black SUV flanked by technical trucks with mounted guns rolled through the main gate. It stopped directly in front of the largest building. Maya's breathing shallowed. "Sergeant." "I see him," Eva confirmed, her voice tightening a fraction. "Stand by." The rear door of the SUV opened. A man in a white robe stepped out. Kareem Al-Sahel. He was real. He was right there. The mission clock in Maya's head started ticking down. "Range 1,892 meters, Eva whispered, her eye pressed to the spotting scope. "Wind value 5.5. Hold 0.2 of a mil left. Wait for him to clear the vehicle. Wait for the perfect profile." Maya's fingers slid from the trigger guard to the curve of the trigger. The crosshairs settled on the space beside the SUV. The world narrowed to that tiny circle of glass. She could see the man's face now, the way he gestured to an aide. She began her breathing cycle. In and out. A sudden movement in the courtyard below. A child, no more than 8 or 9, darted from behind a truck, chasing a runaway ball. The ball rolled to a stop a few feet from Al-Sahel. The child skidded to a halt, staring up at the feared man. Maya's breath hitched. Her finger froze. The crosshairs wavered. "Steady cruise." Eva's voice was a razor's edge. "The shot is clear. The child is outside the impact zone." But the moment was broken. The image of the child was seared into Maya's mind. The moral calculus of the shot became terrifyingly real. It was no longer a silhouette on a range. A voice, tense and urgent, crackled over the radio in her ear. It was the mission commander. "Reaper, what's the delay? Take the shot. Take it now, before he moves inside." The pressure was immense. The voice in her ear, the child in the courtyard, the target now turning to walk away. "Maya," Eva said, using her first name for the first time ever. It was a command and a plea. "Take the shot." Panic flared. Maya jerked the trigger. The crack of the rifle was deafening. The recoil punched her shoulder. Through the scope, she saw a puff of dust and stone chips explode from the wall of the building, a clean meter to the left of the target. Silence. Then, chaos erupted. Al-Sahel's guards shoved him violently toward the building door. Shouts echoed up from the compound. Muzzle flashes sparked as the enemy, now aware of the threat, began firing wildly into the surrounding hillsides. The radio exploded with frantic voices. Shot missed. Shot missed. Abort. Abort. All elements, fall back to extraction point. Maya lay frozen, the rifle heavy and useless in her hands. The echo of the shot seemed to ring forever in the mountains. She had failed. The mission was a catastrophe. She had not only missed, she had doomed them all. The weight of it crushed the air from her lungs. She had proven every doubter right. She was just a rookie who couldn't handle the pressure. The world had become a nightmare of noise and dust. Bullets whined off the rocks around them, snapping through the air with lethal intent. Maya was paralyzed, her cheek still pressed against the cold stock of the rifle, her mind screaming with the echo of her failure. The mission was over. She had ended it. A hand, iron strong, grabbed the shoulder strap of her vest and yanked her backward. "Get down." Eva's voice was a raw snarl, cutting through the panic. She pulled Maya flat behind the scant cover of the ledge. "They're zeroing in on our position. We have to move. Now." The radio in Maya's ear was a cacophony of urgent voices. "All elements, fall back. Fall back to LZ Bravo. Reaper acknowledge. Exfil in 5 minutes." Eva keyed her own mic, her voice shockingly calm amidst the storm. "Command Reaper. Negative on LZ Bravo. The primary is still active. The mission is not over." A disbelieving crackle. "Reaper, the shot is lost. The element of surprise is gone. Abort and retreat. That is a direct order." Eva's eyes, hard and glittering, locked onto Maya's. She saw the shame, the terror, the utter defeat. She made a decision in that instant, a gamble that would end her career if it failed. She keyed the mic again. The shot was not lost. The moment was. "We have one more option. A secondary firing position. Northeast ledge. It's exposed, but it has the angle. Reaper, that's a suicide run. The area is crawling with hostiles. Acknowledge the order to retreat." Eva ripped the radio earpiece from her ear and let it dangle. The voices became a tinny, distant buzz. The choice was made. There would be no court-martial, only success or silence. She turned to Maya, her face inches away. "They are pulling us out. We are not going." She had to shout over the gunfire. "You have 1 round left in that chamber. The data I gave you is perfect. You didn't trust it. You trusted your fear." Maya could only stare, tears of frustration and fear mixing with the dirt on her face. I saw the child." "I know you did." Eva snapped, her grip tightening. "And that makes you human. But right now, I need you to be a sniper. That man in the compound will kill 1,000 children if we fail. Do you understand? The math is cruel, but it is simple." She pointed a gloved finger toward a narrow, crumbling outcrop that jutted out further along the ridge. It offered a clearer line of sight, but was completely open to fire from below. "We are going to that ledge. You will get 1 chance. 1. I will be your spotter. I will give you the data. But this time, you will not think. You will not hesitate. You will trust my call. Do you trust me?" The question hung in the air, more terrifying than the bullets. It was the ultimate test. It wasn't about skill anymore. It was about faith. Maya looked into Eva's eyes and saw no doubt, only a fierce, unbreakable certainty. In that moment, it was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. Maya took a ragged breath and gave a single, sharp nod. "I trust you." The scramble to the new position was a blur of sliding gravel and whipping bullets. Maya felt a round zip past her ear, so close she heard its supersonic crack. She threw herself behind the relative cover of the new ledge, Eva landing beside her in a cloud of dust. They were completely exposed. The compound below, had a clear line of sight to them now. Muzzle flashes winked like malevolent fireflies. Set up. Now, Eva commanded, her voice a bastion of calm in the storm. Maya didn't think. She moved on pure instinct, muscle memory forged in those endless hours of torment on the bluff. The bipod of the rifle snapped into place on the rocky ledge. She settled behind the scope, her world collapsing to the circle of glass. The chaos around her, the shouts, the gunfire, the roaring in her own ears began to fade, pushed back by a wall of concentration. Eva pressed her eye to the spotting scope, her body a rock of stillness amidst the torrent of lead. Target is moving to the north entrance. He's getting into a vehicle. This is the last chance. Her voice was hypnotic, a steady drone in Maya's ear. Range 1,885 meters. Wind is gusting. It's a tailwind now, switching from the south. 3 meters per second. Hold 1/10 mil right. Breathe, Maya. In and out. Maya obeyed. She drew a slow, deep breath, her eye never leaving the scope. The crosshairs danced over the chaotic scene below. She saw figures running, vehicles starting. Then she found him. Kareem Al-Sahel, a dark figure being hustled toward an armored car. Steady, steady. Eva's voice was like a physical anchor. Forget the bullets. Forget the fear. There is only the wind and the target. The wind is your friend now. It is pushing your bullet home. Trust it. Maya exhaled halfway, a long, controlled breath. Her finger settled on the trigger. The pressure was immense, but it was a clean pressure now. There was no doubt. There was no child. There was no voice on the radio. There was only Eva's call and the alignment of the crosshairs. She felt the subtle push of the tailwind, not as a problem, but as a part of the equation, just as Eva had taught her. The crosshairs settled on the center mass of the moving target. They were no longer shaking. She was no longer aiming. She was simply waiting for the perfect convergence, the moment when all the variables Eva was calling out aligned into a single, inevitable truth. Send it, Eva said, her voice flat and final. The world held its breath. There was no jerk, no hesitation. Maya's finger completed the smooth, steady press. The rifle roared, its sound swallowed by the greater violence around it. The recoil was a distant, familiar jolt. She never lost sight of the target through the scope, riding the recoil with her body. Time stretched into an eternity. She saw the figure of Kareem Al-Sahel stumble, then fall. A perfect shot. A moment of absolute silence seemed to descend, even amid the gunfire. Then Eva's voice, devoid of triumph, utterly professional, crackled over the open radio line she had reconnected. Command Reaper. Target is neutralized. I repeat, the target is neutralized. The extraction was a violent, chaotic blur. The enemy fire, now leaderless and disorganized, became wild and unfocused. The team's covering fire was precise and devastating, allowing Eva and Maya to scramble down the mountainside to the waiting helicopters. The roar of the rotors, the shuddering of the airframe, it all felt distant and unreal to Maya. She stared at her hands, still gripping the rifle, as the hostile landscape fell away beneath them. She had done it. The impossible shot. Back at the forward operating base, the atmosphere was electric. The mission was being hailed as a stunning success against impossible odds. Soldiers clapped her on the back, their faces filled with a respect she had never seen before. Incredible shot, Cruz. You saved countless lives today. The words washed over her, but they didn't sink in. The celebration felt like it was happening to someone else. She found Eva not in the debriefing room or among the celebrating soldiers, but in the empty equipment shed, sitting on an ammo crate. The sergeant was meticulously field stripping her spotting scope, cleaning each lens with a soft cloth. The scene was a mirror of their first meeting, a world away. The mission was already a memory for her, a task completed. Maya stood in the doorway for a moment, watching. The words of thanks she had practiced felt hollow. She walked over and stood quietly. Eva didn't look up. "The wind," Maya said, her voice rough from dust and adrenaline. "It shifted. Just after I fired. A tiny gust, maybe 0.2 mils, to the right. You accounted for it before it even happened." Eva paused her cleaning. She slowly set the lens down and finally looked at Maya. The harshness was gone from her eyes, replaced by a deep, weary satisfaction. She gave a single, slow nod. "I saw the dust pattern change. A small eddy off the western wall. It was predictable." That was all the confirmation Maya needed. It hadn't been luck. It was the culmination of every brutal lesson, every moment of doubt forged into certainty. Eva hadn't just given her the data. She had given her the ability to believe in it absolutely. "I couldn't have done it without you, Sergeant," Maya said, the words feeling inadequate. Eva stood up, her movements still economical and sure. She placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, a brief, solid weight. "Yes, you could have," she said quietly. "You just needed to learn that for yourself." She picked her pack, slinging it over one shoulder. "The hard part is over, Cruz. The legend is yours now. Don't let it become a burden." With that, Eva Rostova walked out of the shed and into the blinding sunlight, leaving no ceremony in her wake. She was a ghost again, her work done. Years later, Sergeant Maya Cruz stood on a windy training range. A new batch of recruits lay prone before her, their faces a mixture of anxiety and determination. One of them, a young woman with sharp eyes, hesitated before taking a shot at a difficult target. Cruz walked over and knelt beside her. The wind whipped at her uniform. "You're fighting it," she said, her voice calm and steady. "Don't fight the wind. Listen to it." The recruit looked up confused. Maya Cruz smiled faintly, a memory of a barren ledge and a steady voice in her ear. "It tells you everything,"